Welcome to another installment of the Yakima Symphony Orchestra's Stories from Home, a series of interviews presented by Valley Mall and available at ysomusic.org. My name is Lawrence Golan, and I am the Helen N. Jewett Music Director of the Yakima Symphony Orchestra, coming to you from my home in Denver, Colorado. Today, I'm chatting with our principal trumpeter, Greg Smith, coming to us from his home in Oregon. And Greg, which particular city did you say you're in?
So I live in Albany, which is it's about an hour south of Portland, right on the Willamette River.
Okay, great. Is it pretty nice in that area?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It's we're near Corvallis, which is where one of the universities is. But it's a lot of farm country. So outside of the city, which is pretty small, maybe 50,000 people. Outside of the city, it's a lot of blueberry farms, grass seed farms. A little further north, they grow a lot of hops. So yeah, that's the
Huh.
just general area.
Not too different from Yakima, actually.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways very similar, and strangely the crops are similar, but the climate's very different. It's much
Oh,
wetter here.
oh, I see. Great. Well, how long have you been playing with the Yakima Symphony Orchestra?
Just this is my first year, so just a year.
Right. You're what we call a newbie, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it's only been a year, but so far anyway, is there one concert or one piece that we've played that is the most memorable for you?
Yeah, I'd say probably Ein Heldenleben, which is one of my first concerts, just because it's a really iconic piece, and it doesn't get played that often. So it's sort of been on my bucket list for probably 20 years, really. And I remember it was one of the pieces I listened to when I was really young.
Uh-huh.
In high school, I had this great old Chicago symphony recording with Fritz Reiner, and it's just, the orchestra sounds great. And as a teenager, it's one of those types of playing that I think is really attractive to you when you're younger. They have the joke about, you like Tchaikovsky when you're young and Mozart when you're old. And there's a little bit of truth to that. My tastes have changed, but definitely when I was younger, that piece was really kind of captivating. And so to finally get a chance to play it was really cool.
Yeah. My father is on that recording that you mentioned, that
I
Chicago Symphony.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually when I was thinking of that. So that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
a
My
small
dad
world.
started with Chicago in 1953, which was Fritz Reiner's first year.
Okay.
So basically, every Fritz Reiner recording and Schulte and Barenboim, that
Oh
for
wow.
49 years, my dad's on all those recordings. Yeah,
Now he played violin, right?
correct. Yeah. At first, he was in the section. So probably at the time of those, well, I'm sure that at the time of those recordings with Reiner, he was in the section. Then he eventually became principal second violin under Schulte.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead to next season, is there one particular piece that you're looking forward to the most?
Well, Mahler five, sort of obviously hands down. And again, for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, it's a really iconic piece. I have played this one before, not in the principal chair, which is different. But so just it's one of my favorite pieces. Of course, has this really big opening trumpet solo, but that's not necessarily the reason I like it. Occasionally I do like music that doesn't have trumpet solos, but there are all these other parts of the piece that are just really fabulous. And I think the first movement in particular is really kind of, for me, kind of like a master class in like really capturing one particular, like all the facets of one particular emotion. So the first movement, to me, really encapsulates like grief and all the different kinds of shades of it, from melancholy to despair to anger to sentimental longing to all the so um, that whole kind of sphere of grief. And I think it's so like masterfully done in that first movement, because it's pretty. It's very manic. There are lots of the character and the mood changes within that general world all the time, and I think it's really really fitting. Um, and then you get the rest of the movements have different things to offer, so it's just a really cool piece, and one that I've been listening to for years.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, is it also the Chicago Symphony recording with Schulte that you've been listening to,
Uh,
or a
I,
variety?
yeah, I have a variety. I think my sort of go-to recording for that has for a long time been the New York Philharmonic with um, who was it? With Maida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's actually the most recorded of all the Mahler symphonies is number
yeah,
5.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great piece. I'm looking forward to that a lot too. Um, so I'm wondering if there's some interesting fact about you, surprising fact, maybe outside of music, perhaps that our viewers might be interested in, and that you might be willing to share with us.
Oh, I don't know. I was sort of thinking of some musical facts,
Oh, okay.
um, and I'm curious what your sort of answers to these questions are too. I was thinking the other day of what the largest crowd I've played for is, and what the smallest crowd I've played for is.
Okay. So what are those answers?
So I think so. The largest one, I'm guessing. I mean, it's hard to know. I know exactly how many the smallest one was, but the largest one, I'm guessing was probably about 10,000 people. So when I
And
was a
where was
student,
that?
when I was a student at Tanglewood, they have the big Tanglewood parade like celebration with the student orchestra and the BSO, and so it's a big crowd. And the shed, what they call the shed, that's sort of like the indoor outdoor. It's the covered venue, sort of inside, even though it's open air. I mean, I think that seats about 4,000, and then you figure the lawn has another 4, 5, 6,000. So I'm guessing probably about 10,000 people for that. Um, and then the smallest was 3, which was a brass quintet concert. So there were more people on stage than off stage.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
No, no, typically not. Yeah, especially if it's a solo recital, then you're.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't actually know what my answers to those two questions are. I've never thought about it, but off the top of my head, um, I mean, I have performed at the Ravinia Festival with Chicago Symphony, and a full crowd at Ravinia could be around 20,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 'cause, it's similar to Tanglewood, but it has a bigger lawn.
Okay.
So you've got your, 3 or 4,000 in the pavilion, but I think up to, 16 or 17,000 out on the lawn.
Hmm.
Um, I toured with Frank Sinatra, and we played
And
in some,
how is that going to be the lowest number?
no, no, no,
You're
no,
still high.
no,
Okay.
I'm still on high. Yeah, we played in some ice arenas. I don't remember exactly, where or what the crowds were, but pretty big crowds because they were, ice hockey uh, professional stadiums.
Hmm.
So that had to be up there. And I played at Gorky Park with Leonard Bernstein, but I have no idea. That was in Russia. I have no idea what the crowd was there. And then on the low end, well, there was a concert a couple concerts I've done with really bad snowstorms going on
Oh
outside.
yeah.
Um, and maybe just a couple hundred people. Uh, yeah, in terms of orchestra concerts, anyway, that was probably the lowest. But yeah, it's a good question. I'll give that some more thought and see if I have any other answers back in my memory banks. Um, okay, great. Well, our audiences miss hearing you play very much. I see you've got your trumpet there,
I
so
do.
looks like you'll play something for us. What do you have in mind?
Yeah, I was going to play just a little tune from Poor Game Best. So I was a few years ago. I did a 10-week run of it. And unlike some shows where you do a couple weeks or even a couple days, you get tired of doing them over and over again. I could have done Porgy forever. Just
Yeah.
great music, great show. We had a great cast, and there were some moments every night that I really looked forward to in the show. Just always wanted to hear. So I'm going to play just a tune from one of them, and it's not one of the famous tunes. It's actually from a scene where Clara's husband Jake is a fisherman. He dies in a storm, and the community at Catfish Row comes together and is comforting Clara and telling her, Clara, don't you be downhearted. So it's just a little tune from that part of the opera, and I thought I'd just play that. And I'm going to take a minute here to switch over to a different mic.
Sure. While you're doing that, I will just tell our viewers that Porgy and Bess, for those who don't know, is the great opera written by George Gershwin. And it's written for an all African American cast. And it's one of the, if not the most successful opera written by an American composer. So a real masterpiece.
Just great piece of music. Ready?
Beautiful, beautiful. For some of our viewers who came to our concert a couple years ago when we played a symphonic picture from Porgy and Bess, which is an orchestral arrangement of the music, some of those really astute listeners will remember that that tune that you just played is used in the very opening of Symphonic Pictures from Porgy and Bess. So. Greg Smith, Principal Trumpeter of the Yakima Symphony Orchestra, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you on stage live in person very soon.
Yes, thank you. Me too.